So this is a splash around pool, and it's 13 by 21, I believe. I'll check that dimension, but it's the one with the side props, and it came with these gate valves on it, which are, you see the handle's broke on this one. It's quite old. This pool's been from 2004, and this gate valve's actually leaking pretty badly, and then the hose here is also leaking. So I'm going to make a video that shows you basically how to replace a segment of hose and the gate valve. Now I'm not going to replace the entire assembly here, which I originally thought I was going to, which would include a segment of pipe on both sides of this. But basically you can consider that stuff indestructible, and those part numbers you can't get online anymore, and I believe it's because the pool supply places have a monopoly on those parts. And I'll give you those numbers that just for reference, they're all Valterra numbers. But rather than doing the entire assembly, what you get is this Valterra 1.5 inch blade valve. Waste valve is what they call it. The part number is T1001VP, and it was like 16 bucks on Amazon. So, and this is the valve, and you can see it's just the middle piece. It's got a gasket on each side of it that comes out. You want to make sure you keep those the right direction, and same thing, don't let it flip-flop so that they're upside down. But you're basically just going to put that over the assembly that's already there. Now the main thing, obviously, if you're going to do both valves, you want to do one at a time, because you're going to shut off your water supply, and if you don't, there's going to be a flood of water coming out of your pool if your pool is filled up. So in this case, the incoming gate valve I'm going to shut, and I'm going to do the outgoing gate valve. And on the inside of this is where you've got your directional blowout part, and I'm believing that somebody can just stick their finger in there and stop the water flow while we work on this. Maybe a few drops will come out, but I don't expect any real problem here. And then of course the actual tubes are going to have a little bit of water in it from what's in your riser here and the hose. So I'm just going to let that leak to the side for a bit when I take it off, and then I'll show you how it looks afterwards. And you see these bands that hold the tubes on, you're just going to use a straight screwdriver to loosen that up and take the clamp off and reclamp up a new hose. And then after I've got the hose replaced here, then I'll show you the valve off. So I've taken the piece of hose off, and you can see more water is coming out of the bottom piece because it's exiting the riser. That should stop at some point. If it does not, it'll be akin to this top one, because there'll be a little bit coming through this hose and feeding it. But eventually the level on this thing will go too low where it stops running out if it doesn't stop. So I'm not worried about that. So I've replaced my piece of hose, and it's 1.5 inches, and I'm going to give you the Amazon part description page number in the description here. So the bolts that are going to put on the new gate valve assembly are 8 millimeters. You want to get your ratchet with an 8 millimeter socket, and then a pair of pliers to hold the back nut with. So you can see I'm missing a bolt head here, because when I put the ratchet on it, the amount of rust when I turned it, it broke right off. So if the bolt head gets stuck in your socket, just pop your socket off, and then take one of the bolts that are with the new assembly and push it through the hole so to knock it off. So you can see there's just barely a drip with my son holding the directional jet hole on the inside with his finger. So that is a manageable amount of water. If you don't hold that, you'll get quite a flood. So on this other side, this is the part that came off, and I now have to separate this from the other hose assembly, and I've got 3 pieces of bolt that are in here because the heads all came off. So I'm just going to try to tap them out, and then I'll come back to you in a second. So I just tapped on the back of these nut heads and the part came off. So you can see it landed on the dirt and I got some debris on it, no big deal. And on one side it says splash around pools, and on the other side is Valterra 1.5 inch gate valve, which is the piece we're doing. And so we're just going to discard that, but I wanted to show you these gaskets and how they seat on both sides and how they go up against the square pieces that you already have in existence. So you want to make sure you don't screw up those gaskets. They got to seat flat for the water not to leak out of them. And just so you can see how a gate valve works, you simply pull on that handle and the door opens and shuts just like the gate to the kingdom, the castle or whatever. No man may enter this gate valve. That's water though. So the other thing I want to tell you is orient it the same direction that the other one was. So in other words, the Valterra 1.5 inch gate valve text should be facing the same direction, just in case if there is any difference, you don't want to take a chance. So the text is facing the pool with the new part. So with the gasket in place on both sides and I'm holding it, I'm just going to simply, maybe not so simply.
No, that was the gasket on this side.
No, I know. I placed the gasket over the piece there, and then I placed this one in. My son's going to push the other assembly on, if we can. Here, I got to pull it back out because I can't tell if it was on there or not. We got to make sure it's in that hole. This so far seems to be the most difficult piece of this. Okay, so now I've got the studs sticking out the back, not all the way through, but I tightened this one up at the top because the plastic on this, whatever this thing's called, hose attachment piece cracked. So hopefully it holds up in place. I think it will. So I'm going to tighten it up more and put the nuts in the back. So now that I have the new valve on, and see, I did put the correct letters facing the right way. Hopefully the gasket's seated all good. And like I said, the one corner cracked with the old piece of material there, but I think it'll be okay. So the moment of truth one is when he takes his finger off of the inside. Go ahead. So hear a bubble. And this valve is open, so water should be backfilling into the tube and into the big container. I don't see anything dripping, right?
It's bubbling here, so that
means
air.
Air is in the line, right? So now I'm going to open my other valve, which I'm going to replace this one later. I did this as a test run, so it so far is functional. So now I'm filling up the entire container with water, and I'm going to open my air release spigot on top of the riser. How long does it take to fill this thing usually, Mama?
About 20 seconds or so.
20 seconds? Okay, and I didn't open it all the way. I don't want to splash my camera, but now it's open pretty far, right? We'll see what happens here.
No dripping.
Well, it's not fully under pressure yet, so we'll know once we get this thing cranked up and pumping the pool. But yeah, he pointed out there's no water coming out of this valve, so that's a good sign so far. Now this goopy stuff, okay, now the riser's full. He's going to turn the thing. We've got both valves open all the way. Make sure. And we're going to run our pump, right? I'm scared. Go ahead and turn it on. Never done this before, so no water coming out of this gate valve. So now I'm going to do our normal and get the air out of the line. My battery's flashing, but I think I've completed the job here. So for 16 bucks, I'm going to give you the link to this valve. And we had this extra piece of 1.5 inch pipe. not pipe, tubing, whatever you want to call it. I'm also going to put a link in there where you can get a, I think it's a 5 or 6 foot segment. So if you wanted to do both of your valves and pipes, if you got leaky, I keep saying pipe, leaky tube only, you could replace the tubes like I showed you in the first step. Or if you wanted to do the valves also, you could do what I just did. But like I said, I would start with this side, which is the side that blows into the pool, rather than the intake. Because the intake, there's going to be a whole new procedure here. I'm going to tell you in advance. You're going to want to take your pool cleaning tool that comes with an L. So your hose that normally goes on the bottom of your pool to clean it, you want to put that L in this hole and block that flow of water, and then put your cleaning tool above the pool, not in the water, so that there's nothing but air in that tube. And then you got guaranteed no water going to leak out of this thing when you start doing this operation, except for what was already in the riser. So if you do it in that order, it should be successful.